In this question, I need to find the value of cosinus of 75 without using the calculator. I'm going to use the addition theorem. Before I use the formula that has to do with cosine, when it comes to the addition theorem, I'll just convert this to an expression with sinus. I know from my unit circle that the cosinus of an angle, let's call this angle alpha, is basically equal to the sinus of 90 degrees minus this angle alpha. So we can apply that to our expression in the question, which is this one, cosinus of 75. My alpha is equal to 75 degrees. That's all I have to do. And then I will have cosinus of 75 degrees will just be equals to sinus of 90 degrees minus 75 degrees. And that would just be equal to sinus of 15 degrees. My addition theorem for sinus says I can have sinus of alpha plus minus beta, and that would be equal to sinus of the angle alpha times the cosinus of the angle beta plus minus the cosinus of the angle alpha times the sinus of the angle beta. If I were to have a plus here, then I would have a plus in the other side of the equation. And vice versa. If I were to have a minus here in the expression, let's say sinus alpha minus beta, then that would be me using the minus or the negative sign here in the other side of the equation. And now I need to create my own alpha and beta. Let's not consider that alpha is equal to 75 degrees anymore, because then that would be different. I need to find two angles now for alpha and beta that if I add them or subtract them, they would give me 15. So alpha plus minus beta is equal to 15 degrees. And they have to be of a special angle. So that would be starting with 0 degrees, 30 degrees, 45 degrees, 60 degrees, and 90 degrees. I'm going to choose 45 and 30. So here I have 45 degrees minus 30 degrees. That would give me 15 degrees. My sinus of 15 degrees here is just basically equal to sinus of 45 degrees minus 30 degrees. And then I can use the formula that I mentioned above here.
If you got any unsolved problem in the world of numbers and equations, make sure to comment it down below and we can get it solved.
Okay, so that would just be equal to sinus of alpha, and I said alpha is 45 degrees, so sinus of 45 degrees times the cosinus of 30 degrees minus cosinus of 45 degrees times the sinus of 30 degrees. Now let's agree that sinus of 45 is equal to the cosinus of 45 degrees, and so therefore I can basically pretty much simplify this expression right here. And then I would have sinus of 45 degrees times cosinus of 30 degrees minus, I'm going to replace this cosinus of 45 with sinus of 45. It's going to be sinus of 45 degrees times sinus of 30 degrees. And then I'm going to factorize sinus of 45 degrees. So I'm going to have sinus of 45 degrees times cosine of 30 degrees minus sinus of 30 degrees. And these are all special angles, and I know the values of these special angles. So for sinus of 45 degrees, that would be equal to square root of 2 over 2 times the cosinus of 30 degrees. If you don't know the exact values for sinus or cosinus, but you know like the numbers, here's a little trick that you can do. You can draw a unit circle here, and you know that the cosinus will represent the x-axis. So the value of cosinus is directly proportional to the x-axis, to the x value, and the value of sine is directly proportional to the y value. So here when we have 30 degrees, this is the 30 degrees right here, almost. You will see here that the x value is greater than the y value. The y value is almost half, and therefore it is half. The x value here is greater, and it is root of 3 over 2. So here we have root of 3 over 2 minus 1 half. And they both have a common denominator, so I can just simplify this. Root of 3 minus 1 over 2. And this is multiplication, so what I'm going to have is root of 2 distributed across root of 3 minus 1 over 2 times 2, which is basically going to be 4 in the denominator. And that would be my final answer.
Don't forget to subscribe to Sam's Education channel and hit the notifications bell to receive regular updates and access to a variety of solved exercises. See you in the next video.